So you want to start a business, I mean like a real business, but the idea of starting might be kind of overwhelming. Like, where do you even begin? Well, fortunately, I'm not just a photographer, I'm also a CPA, and in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to consider and the things that you need to do to start up a business, and I'll give you some tips on keeping track of things and running it after you get it set up. So stick around. So the first thing I gotta say is don't listen to anything I say in this video. This video is just for information and reference purposes. If you're gonna start a business, consult a tax advisor. But with that being said, let me tell you exactly what I do with my own clients and with myself on getting things up and running and maintaining businesses as we go along. Now, whether you're a photographer, any other kind of artist, or any other kind of small business, all of this stuff will apply to you. And the first, really sometimes most confusing, difficult thing to figure out is, what kind of business do I have to be? And for small, really small businesses, there really are two options. One is a limited liability company and one is a corporation, specifically an S corporation. When I talk about limited liability companies, I'm going to say LLC. When I talk about corporations or S corporations, I'm going to say S corp. Now, for tax purposes, basically the way these entities work is the businesses themselves don't pay taxes. All of the income on the LLC or the S corp is passed through to the owner, and the owner pays taxes on their personal tax return. But which type of entity do you want to be? Tax-wise, they're basically the same thing. It really comes down to how it's going to be structured. If you're going to be just independent, like if you're a photographer or an artist and it's just you, you're the only owner of this company, you're probably better off with an LLC. The main reason is, as a 100% owner of an LLC, you don't have to file a separate business tax return to account for the income and expenses of the LLC. Everything can get reported on your regular 1040 personal income tax return. So it saves you cost of having to prepare that. It saves you extra steps in not having to file a separate tax return. An LLC is a nice simple way to be able to keep track of your business, and you don't have to file a separate filing if you own 100% of it. Now, if you're going to have partners in the business and maybe you're going to have employees, people on payroll that you're paying, you're probably better off with a corporation, specifically an S corporation. Now, the difference between a regular corporation and an S corporation is a regular corporation is one of these big, national things, Microsoft, Google, or corporations, and they pay taxes on their income. And then when the owners get money out, like in dividends, if you own shares of stock, you pay taxes on that again. There's a double taxation. An S corporation basically does away with the double taxation. The corporation doesn't pay tax. So for starters, if you're just it's just you alone, you're not going to have employees, you're not going to have a partner, you're probably better off being an LLC. If you're going to have partners and or employees, you're probably better off being an S corp. And once you figure out which one you're going to do, you're going to need a name, and you're going to need to register with the state that you're in. Now, each state does it a little bit differently, but there's a service that I use that a lot of my clients use. We've used it dozens of times over the last few years especially, and that's the LegalZoom. Now, just a disclaimer, we don't endorse any of this stuff. We don't get paid for endorsements of anything in this video or anything that we do on this channel. All the products that we review, the gear that we talk about, all the stuff that we talk about that we use on this channel, it's all stuff that we use. It's real practical. The only reason we're telling you about it and reviewing it, we're giving you our honest opinion. It's stuff that we use all the time. Same goes for this. LegalZoom, I don't have any kind of endorsement with them, but I'm telling you, go to LegalZoom.com if you need to set up any kind of entity. It's fast, it's easy, it's really inexpensive compared to using an accounting firm or a law firm to set up a business for you. Go to LegalZoom.com, and that's basically your starting point for setting up either an LLC or an S corp and getting the name and getting your tax ID number. So basically, when you go on, it's going to take you step by step through exactly what you need to do. Picking the name is, a fun, important part of it. You can always kind of change it later. You can add names to your business, so it's not super important that you get the exact right name right in the beginning, but you're going to want a name. You're going to want to know what type of company you want to be, an LLC or an S corp, and do all of this stuff on LegalZoom, and LegalZoom will walk you through the process, also getting you a tax ID number. Now, usually it could take a week, it could take a couple of weeks to clear the state process through LegalZoom. If there's any snags, they will call you. They'll be really in contact with you, walking you through the process, making sure it's done right. And then you'll get information back from LegalZoom basically saying you've been incorporated with your state. Here's your tax ID number. Now you can take that information to the bank. You're going to want to open a business bank account using the business name and the tax ID number. Now, the reason that this is really important is because you need a way to account for all of your business activity, even if it's just a tiny bit, even if you're only making a few $100s and you have a little bit of expenses, you want to have a separate business bank account to account for anything going on in this business, big or small. This is basically the way that you're going to account for all of the income and expenses, all of the activity of your business. Make sure you have a separate business bank account. Then you can get a debit card or a credit card attached to it and kind of expand from there. So once your business bank account is set up, you're going to want to have a way to account for the income, the expenses, all of the activity in the business and in that account. Now I use, again, there's no endorsement here, I use QuickBooks for everything. Online version, desktop version. With most banks, you can download your banking transactions directly into QuickBooks. And the reason QuickBooks is important is because you want to have a place where you can actually look and see the activity of your business. You're going to want to see your income. You're going to want to see your expenses by different categories. Bill and I have our business on QuickBooks, and it's a great resource to be able to look at exactly what your business is doing, how much income you have, what exactly your expenses are, comparing things from one period to another. We can look at, our revenues increased by 10%, but our advertising has increased by 20%. Why is that? And look at different factors and things to make business decisions. You're going to make business decisions going forward based on those numbers. And that's another point I want to make as far as if you're going into business, big or small, doesn't matter. You have to know your numbers. Know what your income is, know what your expenses are, keep track of that stuff. I'm telling you, if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. You're going to want to make sure that you have a really good handle on what your expenses are. You got to know your numbers. It's the basis for knowing what's going on before and how things are going, and it's the basis for making any business decisions going forward in the future. And like I said, QuickBooks is perfect for that. You're also going to need to make sure that you have a set of books, a balance sheet and an income statement at the end of each year in order to do your tax returns. If you're an LLC and it's just you alone, then it goes in your personal tax return. It's a lot easier. If you need to file a separate business tax return, if you're an S corporation, you have to file a Form 1120S. Then you have to be able to put that information together and probably get an accountant to file the return for you, but you'll have to be able to give them all of that information. So it's really also important for keeping track. You're going to have to do it anyway, so keep track of it as you go along. Know your numbers, super important. And from there, once you have a structure in place, once you have a business set up, you have a business bank account, you have a tax ID number, and you have a way to account for the activity, then you can do anything you want. You can grow, you can increase. Once you have the structure in place to account for these things, it's going to help you make decisions, and it's going to be able to show you exactly what your activity is. And once you want to expand, you want to add employees, you want to do more jobs, you really need that structure in place to do that. And it's also, having the business is a great way to be able to deduct legitimate business expenses. We have things that we buy specifically for the business that Bill and I have. This M50 that I'm recording this on right now, I bought specifically for producing revenue in these YouTube videos. It's a write-off. So a camera that would cost me $600, after I deduct against my expenses and I save some taxes on it, it's really costing me, $450. It's actually a nice way to be able to offset some of the cost of doing this. Legitimate business expenses I'm talking about, but something like that, like a camera that I'm using for these videos, is perfect for that. Travel expenses, if you're traveling to a photo location, all in the interest of generating revenue. If you're doing it, buying gear, traveling places, spending money to generate revenue, it's all part of your business expenses. You can actually deduct that against your business income and save a few bucks. So if you're looking to take a hobby to the next level, or you just want to start any kind of small business, follow these steps. It's the perfect way to get set up, to get things started. If you have any questions or anything, leave them in the comments below. I'd love to be able to answer any questions you have. Again, don't take any of this as actual tax advice or accounting advice. If you really, really need to know anything about this, help getting set up, consult a tax professional, consult a tax advisor for that. This is just kind of for fun and information. I'm going to put a couple of videos up here about other topics related to getting a photo business going that we've done in the past here. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, definitely check those out also. I think you'll like those. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.